The favorite thing I do every year is just relax, sit on my couch, watch YouTube videos, play video games. So, my favorite thing to do.
Your go-to YouTube channel we're talking?
No, I wouldn't say go-to. I diversify my mental portfolio on YouTube, I would say.
Did you watch the quarterback thing, Joe?
I did not.
You planning to?
Maybe one day, probably not though.
What? Why not?
Would you watch a documentary about Hobson?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, I think you're going to be unanimous yes on that one. Obviously, there's been a lot of conversation about your contract with Justin having his done. Does that maybe create a greater sense of urgency on when you would like it done? Does that affect the timeline at all?
It gets done when it gets done. We'll see.
Does any of that stuff matter to you on what other guys make? Do you keep tabs on any of that stuff?
No, not particularly. I'm focused on getting a deal done that's good for us, good for me, good for the team, good for everybody.
Are you okay? Does it have to be done before the season starts, or are you okay whenever it gets done?
It gets done when it gets done.
You said you were confident to keep the band together. You're referring to the receivers. Why are you so confident that you'll be able to do that based on your contract?
Well, we'll see. Obviously, that's ideal situation when you keep guys together for a long time. They build rapport and they build chemistry, and that translates onto the field. So that's obviously the goal.
You talk with them about staying together. I know players don't necessarily talk about contract stuff with each other, but do you guys at all?
We talk about a lot of different things.
Like the line from Mike Brown was there was this pact of silence kind of between you guys on both sides. Kind of why is that the best approach for you guys as you privately negotiate this contract?
I think that's the best way to do business. I'll leave it at that.
Joe, do you think one of your strengths is your ability to compartmentalize? I mean, now it's football and you're compartmentalized, your focus is right there.
Yeah, I'm able to hyper focus on a lot of different things at different times, and when it's time for one, I can completely focus on that and forget about everything else.
So you talked to your teammates about the whole contract thing. Did you have any conversations with Justin as he was kind of waiting for one as well?
Did not.
How do you feel knowing that, I mean, even though it seems like you've been doing this for a long time, this is your first fully healthy, knock on wood, training?
Knock on wood, hopefully, we'll see. Yeah, I feel great. This time last year, I was sitting in a hospital bed a couple days post-surgery, so it's good to be out there with the guys. Excited about where we're at.
So where does that help you the most, Joe? Physically, mentally, in the classroom, where does that make the most difference? Physically
and mentally. I mean, anytime you get more reps, the better you're going to be. So when you have 4 weeks of training camp, you're going to be 4 weeks better than you were if you didn't get those reps. And you can't waste any of those days, because all those days matter, and you're on a pursuit of constant improvement. And if you waste those days, then you're wasting your time.
When did you feel fully up to speed last year? Because it's such a slow season.
It's tough to say. Once you get close to that first game, you kind of drown all that out, and you just go out and figure out a way to try to play your best. So that's tough to say, but definitely wasn't where I'm at now.
Were you asked to be in season 2 of that quarterback documentary?
Yeah, I was. Maybe 1 year. This year I'm not. We'll see. I would like to do it maybe a couple years down the road, but I don't think now's the right time.
Are there any personal goals you've set for yourself on year 4?
You always have personal goals. I've been thinking about goals a lot lately, and I think where my mindset is these days is just improving every day. The point I'm at now, I'm one of the best in the world, and if I just continue to improve every day, I'm gonna help myself a lot more than if I set these goals for myself that are tangible. So I'm just focused on getting better every single day. I know it's cliche, but I think that's the best way to go about it.
How do you think you practiced today?
Pretty damn good.
Why do you say that? What makes a damn good practice?
Felt like I put all the balls where I wanted to, made good reads, made good checks. It was a good first day.
Zach said that you you're at the 300 level, and a lot of the guys are at the 100 level. And, you know, how frustrating is that for you to have to kind of like choke it down or whatever, to make sure that you're doing things that everybody can kind of fully understand and take advantage
I
of?
wouldn't say it's frustrating. I think that's an opportunity for me to get better. You know, you learn by coaching sometimes, and so the more that I can talk through different things to receivers or O linemen, the more that then I can think about it and then go and process that after I have those conversations. And so those are opportunities to get better mentally.
Zach had said, he felt this team was ready to come out of the chute. It felt like that back in the spring. You know, second snap is a fight, third snap is a long ball. You know, it looked like it was guys were mid-season over there.
Guys are excited to be back. You know, everyone's chomping at the bit, ready to go. You know, it's a long training camp. There's going to be intensity on that field, but you know, we have a bond in the locker room that's unbreakable, and that's going to translate on Sundays. And that's the most important thing at the end of the day. We're going to continue to get better on the field, but you know, that's what wins you games: locker room relationships.
Why do you think you guys came out like that? I mean, is it because you've been so close the last couple of years? Is that why you guys are so ready?
I just think we've been together for 3 years now, for the most part. You know, additions here and there, but you know, the core group of guys have been together, and we know what we have to do throughout training camp to improve our skills and improve our craft and get to where we want to get to. And so, you know, through the whole off season, guys were training that way, taking everything very seriously, and the relationships in the locker room are why everyone's excited to be back. The first day back is always the most fun because you get to see everybody, and that's what I love about the game.
I know you said that you're focused on your contract, but there tends to be camaraderie among the same position group in the league. Do you reach out to a guy like Justin after he gets his deal done?
Depends on the relationship you have with the guy. I don't personally, you know, I met Justin after, you know, we hung out a little bit at the combine and talked to him the last time we played him, but other than that, we don't really talk too much.
Have you thought about what it would feel like when the contract does get done?
Shouldn't really, you know, obviously that's a big moment in your career, but put that all aside. That's obviously the goal when you get into the league is get a second contract and play well in your first one. But you know, I've played well. I've done everything I can do. So when that happens, it happens, and I'm just excited to be back playing football. That's what I really love about this whole process, and that's why I think I've been so good. It's just because I love the game. That's all secondary.
Just being so close the last 2 years, but not being able to kind of get all the way to the end, does that impact your preparation at all, or does that maybe kind of put that in a different perspective had you not been so close, or no?
I wouldn't say that. I would say, you know, we've been up there. We've been in those tough moments, and so we know the things that we have to do and the things that we have to change throughout our process to get there. And so those are just more reps, same as reps in practice. We get those reps now. We're going to be better for them.
The offense, was there any lesson from the last couple drives of last season, the way it ended?
Say that again?
Is there any lesson from the last couple drives last season and kind of the way it ended?
Well, you take things from every play of every game. You know, you learn from the tape and you move on. That's what we did. We learned from the tape and we moved on, just like you do every week.
Are you a hungrier football player as the years go by, or is it the same every year for you?
I wouldn't say I'm hungrier. I would say you change as a person, and you know, your mentality changes, but your process changes, but the grind never stops. Maybe your why changes and turns more from motivation to discipline at a certain point, but that's what the great ones can do. Is once it turns to discipline, that's when they really take off.
What's your why?
I just love the game. I would say I love the guys in there. I do it for them. That's my favorite part of the game is being around those guys. And one of the reasons I work so hard is so the people that help get me here can watch me on Sundays and be proud of what I'm doing and be proud of what they did to help me get here.
There were a couple plays in that AFC, I guess in the divisional game, or maybe the AFC championship game, where when you need a big play, you look at Jamal and G's favor, even in 50-50 chance, and said they're going to get it. What's it like having confidence that you've got multiple guys who are going to do a big play at a big moment, and you can turn to either one of them?
Yeah, that's critical as a quarterback. You have to have guys that you trust to make those plays. It's never going to be, and sometimes it's not going to be pretty. It's not always going to be 10 yards of separation, pocket. It's not always going to be perfect, but when you have guys that you trust and guys that you love to go make those plays, it makes you feel good as a quarterback.
Because you've got multiple years with both of those guys, how much you kind of quantify that as you go and look at the big picture of things and say, there's a value in having this relationship for this many years as opposed to maybe having to bring in receivers and start from scratch.
Yeah, it just turns into, the conversations that you have turn into shorthand. You don't have to, we've built that dialogue, we've built that trust on the field, and, when something happens, sometimes, just look at each other and be like, yeah, and you don't really have to say anything. And so when you have that, it just makes things progress so much faster, and you can get better faster than you could before.
What was your reaction to Joe Mixon restructuring his contract?
We love Joe, so I don't really know the specifics of it, but I know that we're a better football team when Joe's here, so I was happy to see that.
Would you like to play in the preseason, Joe?
Yeah, I would. I haven't had a chance to do that yet. I think, a series or two would be beneficial.
How much do you keep in mind the weight of, obviously I don't think anyone that knows you or has covered you would have ever thought that you would potentially not show up for training camp or hold out or anything, but how, with other players that are going into their final year with no security after that, how much do you keep in mind that you being here and you handling the contract negotiation process that you have maybe sets the tone for players that are in a little bit of a different situation like you, but in a similar in that their future after the season is unknown?
Yeah, I think every situation is unique, and every guy is unique. And every position is unique too. I think, personally, I feel in my position, I don't want to waste any of these days that I have to get better. I've wasted enough days the last 2 years with injuries and appendicitis and COVID the year before that. I don't want to get out of camp wishing that I had 7 more days that I could have got better. And so that's the reason I'm here. Maybe business comes first at some point, but I need these days to be my best.
Is there a certain feeling that once you figure out how to feel for the team in camp, where you feel like this has, having been around special groups previously now, where you're like, okay, you get a sense of camp that this could be a team that makes a run, you have the cohesiveness, you feel like it's already there, and you feel
Felt
like
it already.
Yeah. What more makes you say that after one day?
You feel the speed on the field. You feel the relationships in the locker room. You feel, how far ahead you are from years before. You feel a lot of different things, and you feel it.
You've seen a fight break out so quickly you can't.
Yeah, you see fights along the way when you play this game long enough, Hobbs.
I mean, so
Yeah.
quickly though. But so quickly. And it was like, we didn't even, half of us weren't even there yet.
They usually happen pretty quickly because that's when guys aren't very tired. Day one of camp, third rep. Guys aren't tired yet. Everybody's excited to be here. Adrenaline's pumping, so that's usually when it happens.
Anyone trash talk you today?
There's a couple trash talking happening on the field, yeah.
Joe's that
No.
When you were talking to Cam after one of the series, so you're doing something with your steps. I don't know, was that some trash talk? Was that some technique? What were y'all talking
We were just talking technique. Talking through a rep.
Joe's talking a lot about you being ahead of the game. You're at level 300 as opposed to level 100 because this is your first full off-season, first full camp. How do you kind of measure that and how excited you are to have that first full experience?
Yeah, it's going to be great for me. I know I'm going to be able to get a lot more out of this training camp than I have the last couple, as long as I stay healthy, which, like I said, knock on wood, nothing's happened yet. But like I said, the more reps that you get at the position, more game speed reps, the better you're going to be when it comes week one. I've grinded all off season, and I'm in a great spot physically and mentally. So I'm going to attack this training camp with intensity and pursuit of perfection, and so that's what I'm excited about.
But you took time after practice today to sign autographs and hang out over by the fans. Why do that after practice? Why spend that time? And what's that like to see those fans, all those fans that came out just to see you on practice today?
Yeah, it's always a little weird because you're just a guy, you know, and so when people react that way, it's always a little weird to me. But when people take the time to talk to me, I think they realize that I'm just a guy, and so whenever I can to give back to people that support me, I try to do that.
You still feel like just a guy 3 years in?
Everybody's just a guy.
It looked like you tried to calm the crowd down a little bit at one point.
Well, there were some grown men pushing some kids to get up front, and that was just, come on, guys, what are we doing?
Joe, what does it mean to you that your foundation, the Joe Burrow Foundation, had its first annual golf outing, you raised over $1 million for all the communities that you're part of? How proud are you of that fact?
Yeah, that's, we started it. My parents are most involved in that, so I'm happy to do whatever I can to give back. But all that credit goes to my parents.
Is there a part of the offense or a part of the team you're most looking forward to kind of seeing how they look during camp?
Yeah, we got a lot of young players that we're going to count on. A lot of talented young players. So whenever you can see that improvement and that growth, that's really exciting, especially when they turn that corner. So I'm excited to see that down the road.
You said you didn't want to do the quarterbacks thing this year, maybe a couple of years down the road. Why? What's a couple of years down the road supposed to happen?
Well, if you guys know anything about me, you know media is not exactly my favorite thing to do. It's a very the process of doing that show is very intense. There's a lot of time that you have to put into that, time that I'm not ready to give right now.
Intrusive also? You feel it can be intrusive?
Yeah, everybody knows that I'm a very private person, especially in my personal life, and so that's a window into a personal life that I'm not quite ready to share yet.
So you're not enjoying our conversation right now?
I think we've had some good times.
Everyone can hang tight just so that we can get